March 29, 2022, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. This is the show you were looking for. How do I know that? Because you can hear me barely breathing through my nose and telling you so. Anyway, it is Tears Day, Tuesday, the second broadcast day of the week for the Ochelli Effect. And here we go. We have to learn about the planet that we're on, that's for sure. And extremely grateful to have with me Christie Aphrodite, who was with me last week. Had not been with me in a while, but we've been friends a long time. And gotta say, it's good to get into, I don't know, healthy and truly, okay, here comes a bad word, sustainable things. Things that make sense, what nature offers immediately for the things that, I don't know, other people seem to make businesses out of and then tend to make poisonous things with, etc., etc. Anyway, enough out of my mouth. Christie, first off, how you doing tonight? We're a little late going live, but no big deal. Right?
There always something's gonna freaking happen last minute, but I am awesome and I'm super excited to be here, Chuck. Thank you. For doing this. Should we tell everyone now?
What is it we should tell them? You tell me.
That we might do this more than just last week and tonight.
Yeah, if you're happy to do so, I think we're going to start, instead of the first hour of the show on Tuesday, having you on the second hour. And we'll do that for a while and see where that goes and exactly how much time you have and all that. But, I think that's what we're going to do every Tuesday now. We're going to have Christie for at least an hour every Tuesday.
I love it. It's perfect opportunity. Really for everyone, because I just didn't have the time for all that smart stuff that you do. Like, I'm out, like, sniffing flowers and, picking herbs and...
Yeah, doing smarter stuff than me. Exactly. So, I'm sitting here bathing in, electromagnetic fields all day long. So who's smart again?
Well, that actually kind of goes along with our topic tonight, right? And just so people know, if they're new to hearing me on your show or whatever, you or the listeners are gonna pick like a health topic or an issue, and then I'm gonna show up and you're gonna grill me, and I'm just gonna hopefully spit a bunch of facts that can help you all, like right now, without even spending a single penny anywhere. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to just say, oh, go take this and do that. And we're going to talk about emotional causes, spiritual causes, physical causes, environmental causes, biological causes, etc. Right?
Right.
And most importantly, as you mentioned with that S word, sustainable, that a lot of these, actually everything I'm going to talk about tonight is something that you can do yourself. So I just want to say, I hope you all have a pen and a paper, and I want to get this out of the way. I'm not a medical doctor. Do not take anything I say as medical advice, and I'm talking to a broad spectrum of people, right? So I do not know your condition. I do not know any pre-existing conditions or medications you're on, or even herbal therapies you're on, and because of that, I kind of took a back seat giving this type of advice, because I don't want to kill anyone, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just putting it out there. If you're new to herbs, essential oils, or anything we're going to talk about, don't just jump out there and do it. And don't just end with what I'm going to tell you tonight. Research thoroughly yourself. Check with your medical professional before you start. And when you do get started, or if you do get started, don't take 10 herbs that I said tonight tomorrow, right? Like, introduce each one, if you have no experience with it, individually, and start from there. So that being said, I want to say, do not take any of my advice. I am not a medical doctor. And is that good enough for the and if you do not believe that you have the power to heal yourself, I am sure I'm going to say something tonight that's going to make you hate me. So that's
fair.
probably the best disclaimer I can come up with tonight.
Well, hey, I'll just add one other thing to give a real basic example. Grapefruit and grapefruit juice is not a bad thing in and of itself, but if you are taking certain medications, it can kill you.
Right.
So you have to know what your circumstance is. This is my largest argument, by the way, with the allopathic industry in general, is that they present things as, here's the one-size-fits-all solution, and that does not work.
Right.
It can work in general in certain ways. I'm not going to argue that there are certain things that have been developed that are helpful. I would never tell anybody not to keep things like Benadryl in their house and things like that, because in a pinch, these things are useful, helpful. I know that there are better ways to do it, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't, your kid's got allergies, keep an EpiPen around. I would never tell anybody not to do that. But I will say that you have to know the individual circumstances for yourself or whoever it is that you're feeding, because most of your medicine is food, first of all. And secondly, you have to know what it is you're introducing into your body and how it interacts with other things. And that's
right.
a given no matter which direction you go. Because even these doctors, they're supposed to, even though half the time they don't, they're supposed to know what those drug interactions are.
No,
they don't.
Commonly, I've been in hospital with people on their deathbed yelling at the doctors because they're prescribing drugs to the person who's dying that are known to kill people when put together.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm saying that's the thing, is that people imagine that, well, the doctor gave me these 3 things, they know. I've seen it many times where you go to a pharmacy, the pharmacist looks at it and goes, are you sure about this? Because,
right.
Yeah, this doesn't make, because he at least knows about drug interactions a little more. The doctors should know. Yeah. Do they? Not usually, quite frankly. And, I could tell you fun stories, but I want to get to you.
Right. Yeah, because we don't have a lot of time, and I'm telling you, I started to think about this topic, and then I'm like, no, I can't. Because if I start making notes, it'll be a 5-hour show. So, all right, that being said, and Chuck, I'm glad you brought up grapefruit, because, again, we promote, or I'll just speak for myself, I promote self-responsibility. So whether you're taking pills from a doctor or experimenting with herbs and oils in nature, thoroughly research it, and I'm glad you brought up grapefruit, because there are foods like that not only can interact negatively to your detriment with certain medications, there's also things that can help. Our topic tonight is headache and pain remedies. So citrus is known to cure certain type of headaches, but it's also known to cause certain type of headaches in certain people, right? And so this is true basically across the board, because number one, we're not the same. But of all the things we have in common, which is, food, sunshine, sleep, water, another thing we have in common is that we've all had headaches or a headache or pain at some time. So just because we all have that common doesn't mean it's the same cause or the same cure. So again, keep in mind, I'm speaking from a broad spectrum of people with varying conditions. I'm going to say it again. I'm not a medical doctor. Do not take any of this advice without thoroughly researching. Okay.
I'll give you a quick example too, just because I am commonly affected with headaches, but my cause may not be the same as somebody else's. I've got more than one. At one time I broke my neck. Believe me, that gives you headaches.
Right.
And also I've got an eye problem, which I'm light sensitive and this and that. If I get eye strain, I get headaches.
Right.
And I'm constantly, I was getting hit with migraines when my prescription was off on my glasses. Okay.
Right.
And I'm almost 50 years dealing with it, because I'm going to turn 50 next week. Anyway,
oh my goodness! I'm gonna sing to you.
Oh, not today. Do it next week.
Let's clear out a room real quick.
But but the thing is, I've been dealing with it my whole life, right?
Right.
Now, some other people might have conditions or injuries that emerge, and I've also got those too, thanks.
Right.
Which will also cause them. I mean, I've actually had
Right.
multiple concussions, stuff like this.
Right.
So there is a point at which I got to tell you, it's amazing to me that somebody's going to cut a lawn after dark. I don't know if you can hear that, but nearby, of course. Thanks for that. Anyways, welcome to Georgia. But because there are common causes, people would say stress. People would say, your poor diet, on and on and on. And the truth is that all of these things can indeed be the cause. And all of these things can be a contributing factor to a cluster of issues. So at all times, you have to be careful as to which issue you're addressing. What else is it in your body that could be causing it, or a deficiency of something which could be lacking and therefore causing the issue. So there's a wide variety of ways to start to approach it. So just theoretically, I mean, if you want to use me as the example, and full disclosure, I have actually utilized some of the things that Christie has suggested, and I have found some relief, which is difficult because my life is pain, unfortunately, most of the time. Now, I've had some repair recently, and we'll get into that in another show, which came from something else. But what is it that, somebody who's constantly struck with this, they also get tired. And by the way, fatigue, you'll feed into the headaches. Okay.
Yes. Pain.
So
Yes,
various
absolutely.
things. And I just kind of turn it over to you, and you say, okay, somebody's fed up and they just want some kind of relief. How would they begin exploring what it is they should look at? I mean, first you got to evaluate. Right. So let's talk. Right. Let me let you talk about
all
that.
Right, because I'm like
Please.
looking at the clock, like, oh my God, am I going to be able to get all this out? Okay, so first of all, Chuck, as I'm sure many of your listeners know, you have a genetic condition, and we're going to talk about that separately, because when it comes to headaches, or if people come to me for headache or pain, and I'm a holistic health coach, and I spell that with a W, whole, because I look at the whole person. And as you mentioned, there are many different causes to headaches. So the first thing that I, or any true health practitioner, or even yourself, right, which I know you're doing, Chuck, and so but I'm talking to everyone now, you first want to assess the root. Okay, is this a sinus headache? Is this, and by the way, your eye strain headaches, Chuck, are actually one of the number one causes of headaches. And where you are currently sitting right now, and where you spend a lot of time, right? But it's not the Beat Chuck Up show. I can't do a show about headaches without talking about these environmental conditions, right? So, okay, is it eye strain? Is it allergies? Is it stress? Is it a high blood pressure? Is it an infection? Is it a concussion? Is it a nutritional deficiency? Is it an overabundance of toxins? Is it a hormonal imbalance? And maybe not necessarily a hormonal imbalance, but fluctuating hormones, right? Or is it a hunger headache? Are you hangry? Right? Is it certain odors or aromas, or is it dehydration? And yes, you mentioned food, diet, things like that, right? All of those things and more can be factors in the reason that you, not you, Chuck, but in general, are having a headache, right? And so I give myself headaches sometimes when I work too much and I don't eat all day or drink enough water. And then by like 10, 11 or something, I'm like, oh my God, I'm hungry. And I'm like ready to pass out. You know what I mean? And that's my fault, right? That's something that I can control. And again, all right. So number one, you want to find the root, right? Number two, you want to first go about what you can do to reduce that cause. So if that causes stress, well, say you have a job you hate and, you're battling with people all the time or whatever, and, then kind of, consider moving on, right? So there's certain things that we stress. If you're stressed about money or stressed about, you know what I mean? There's certain techniques that we can do to get rid of stress that can also relieve headaches, like simple cranial massage or right at the, what's that called? Occipital, at the base of your skull and that little crease right there, things like that. And again, there's a multiple variety of headaches. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff out there that things can do. So, of course, essential oils can work very well, and switching foods to things like, for example, magnesium oil is something that helps people with headaches and pain, whether you rub it on your skull or whatever. Or you could simply eat more magnesium-rich foods, right? Like, say, dark leafy greens, kale, spinach, legumes, nuts, and again, this is where self-responsibility comes in. Don't just blanketly take my advice, because you could have a peanut allergy. And let me also say this about nuts. Most nuts we get in the grocery store are already molded, right? So, and they cover it up with different flavorings, and yeah, they're delicious and stuff, but there are lots of undiagnosed nut allergies. So don't just go out and eat. But if you were going to get magnesium-rich foods, then cashews, almonds, peanuts, provided they're safe for you, are good sources. And of course, bananas, right?
Right.
And also I want to say that B vitamins and even bee pollen, but B vitamins in general, are known to sometimes help with headaches. And if you want to up your, say, B vitamin-rich foods, it's incidentally the exact same foods I just mentioned that are magnesium-rich.
Okay,
now,
so two things. Two things, because I just want to get these in and let you take a breath for a second. One is that as far as massage goes, you talked about the base of the neck. That's true. The base of the skull, excuse me. That is a truly good spot. There's the temples, that sort of area, the temporal area. But also, weird little thing that I learned is that, quite frankly, with the eye strain, a lot of times if you simply take the tip of your thumb and you push it upward kind of firmly between your eyes and ride it up between your eyes, a lot of times that will alleviate some of the headaches too, some of the pounding.
Absolutely. I was definitely going to bring up different massages and also pressure points, right?
Right.
And so we're on the radio, so it's going to be hard to show you, but you just mentioned one, right? Between your eyes,
right,
on your forehead, your temples. There's in your hands as well, between your thumb and just look it up, right, and find out exactly. And also on your feet. But I also want to mention, since I meant the one between your hand is also, interestingly enough, and I know this, don't ask me how, but it also helps you, like if you have to go to the bathroom really bad, number one, and say you're like an hour drive from home or something like that, it'll help that urge go away so you don't pee your pants. But okay. Right. So now, getting back to the magnesium.
One thing before you move on, just one thing before you move on, to always keep in mind as you're discussing this is also that, you talked about environmental, you talked about different things that are stressors, etc. Okay. But there's another aspect here which also must be kept in mind, and something I discovered only recently, is as you start to get older, certain things might change because of the hormonal thing, which you went over very quickly. But truth is, listen, just simple facts are facts. You get into a certain age area, menopause comes up for women, and quite frankly, there is a drop in testosterone for men.
Right.
And it's, I almost think of it as the menopause for men, where, quite frankly, you lose a little bit of that testosterone. They try and sell you stuff for that all the time.
Right.
Because there is
like
deficiency.
Saw palmetto.
Yes.
That you can just go get. But also, in addition to just going to get the saw palmetto, if that was an issue, you also want to look at your diet and how much soy-based food we're eating, right? Because they are chock full of phytoestrogens, right? that can cause hormonal imbalances in men. Decrease the testosterone or increase the estrogen to a point where you're off balance, right? And yeah. But I just want to before I forget, because I was talking about the magnesium and B-rich foods, I want to bring up the herbs and essential oils, but let's just focus on the herbs, and basically you can get the same thing, right? So if basil, right? Herbs that people have been putting in food traditionally since the beginning of time, right? Herbs that anyone can grow. So like basil, marjoram, oregano, thyme, tarragon, and of course dandelions, mints, and then nutmeg. I don't grow nutmeg and don't know anyone that does, but I know all of those other, rosemary, all of those, are dill, even coriander, or cilantro, coriander is the seed, but all of those herbs that we put in our food, right, can help. So, but what I'm going to suggest, if you do want to try any of these herbs and essential oils in your diet, first of all, if you're buying them in a grocery store, they're dead. And if you want to go look at my Twitter feed, you can see the difference between my fresh hand-picked leaf-by-leaf herbs versus the organic in the store, or even the health food store and other popular natural food providers. And there is a distinct difference. So dead herbs don't heal, right? So either grow your own or buy some fresh, or hook up with somebody like me, or I'm sure there's somebody like me in your area somewhere, right? Farmers markets, things like that. But there are traditional, like Ayurvedic remedies that are super, and other cultures, okay, remedies that are super simple. Like I just said, basil and mint. Like you could just grab a few leaves and crush them in your hot water, right? And then I mentioned earlier citrus, like lemon or lime or even grapefruit. Like some people, and again, depending on the type of headache, they can just juice, like a couple limes or lemon, or at least one, and put a little salt in it and down that, right? But actually, before we get into these remedies, I should have just mentioned water. Are we even getting enough water?
Always a problem.
And believe it or not, I'm not an anti-fat person. Healthy fats are good for your cells, which will help decrease inflammation, and also the protective coating on your cells, right? The myelin sheath, which basically ensure that everything is happy and your neurotransmitters are firing properly and such like that, and reduce inflammation. So, of course, that would take there's plenty of information out there. I don't have enough time to get into super deep every single remedy we're going to talk about, but
of course not. But good fats. Some mint in your garden. Good fats are also good fats are also good for the brain.
Right.
Okay, so just saying, a lot of people, again, with the middle age thing, like I said, I learned this recently. You got people starting to say, well, I'm slow, I'm forgetful, this and that. It's probably you don't have the right balance of fat, and you're probably not hydrated correctly. Those are the two issues that are the easiest things to fix, and are readily easily understood if you're paying attention. So I'm just saying these are two easy fixes to start with, aren't they?
Absolutely. And you know what? Posture, breathing. How are we sitting at the desk, right? Do we have, a nice 45-degree angle with our in our chin, right? Or are we slouched over, and which I have to work on all the time. Or anxiety. Are you taking short breaths, or are you taking a moment and taking long, purposeful breaths, right? So getting back to culinary herbs, because those are the easiest that everyone's familiar with, right? Again, rosemary, thyme, marjoram,
The spice rack,
basil,
the spice
sorry.
rack, the spice rack of anybody cooking in a
Right.
Mediterranean
Yeah.
way
Absolutely.
is basically it.
Even sage. So if you have those fresh herbs on hand, and I'm talking fresh, right? Because that's what they use in ancient Ayurveda techniques that work. You can use, just squish up some leaves in your super hot water and then maybe squeeze a lemon. And depending on the herb, you might need a little honey in it. But there's also ginger, right? And turmeric. And you can easily make, and I'll just give like a couple little recipes that anyone can do. And again, this is a super ancient Ayurveda technique that you want to use dried ginger for this, not fresh ginger. And I'm not talking dried from the powder from the grocery store, like an actual root that's been dried properly. And then muddle that up, crush that up and add a little milk, a little bit at a time until it turns into a paste. And then just rub that on your head, okay, like your temples, your forehead, or wherever the headache is, right? And you can do the same thing with multiple herbs. Again, you can also do that with, say, cinnamon or even cloves. And so, yeah, and again, culinary herbs that everybody's familiar with can be headache and pain remedies that may give instant relief, again, depending on the condition. Now, if you wanted to use some of these ingredients as essential oils, what you really need to understand first is more is not better, okay? And I'll give you an example. 1 drop of peppermint essential oil is the equivalent of 40 cups of peppermint tea, right? And of course, we're talking about peppermint tea in those little baggies at the store. Don't do that. If you have headaches and you're suffering and you need, contact me. I'm just saying, because you cannot you can't get the kind of herbs I have anywhere. I'm just saying. So, and I have been able to help a lot of friends that were buying the same type of teas in stores, and I'm like, yeah, nah, dude, let me send this to you. Okay, so there's that. But say you're going to start using some of these as essential oils, right? And you can get that powerful punch. First of all, you mentioned memory earlier. All of these herbs I just mentioned, whether used wholly or as an essential oil, are also going to assist in memory, right? And clarity and things like that. Sometimes people just get headaches because they're mad that they can't remember words, like some of us after some brain damage. And, so there's that. But let's say you want to introduce essential oils into your headache or pain remedies. You can, first of all, be sure you're getting a good quality, not mass marketed brands or multi-level marketing brands. Or grocery store or Walmart brands, okay? Now, you can use those for like cleaning products or bug sprays or something like that, right? But not to use internally. Now, peppermint is one of the best, and I just want to say peppermintgym.com if you want the very best peppermint oil in the world. So if you can either inhale that, right, nice and slow with both of your nostrils, one at a time, or rub it on your temples, or on your sinuses, or even on your feet, or behind your ears, or really any pressure point. But I just like to put it right on. Now, I do want to say, with the exception of, and this isn't true across the board because it depends on what kind of oils you're working with, but for the most part, you don't want to put them directly on your skin. However, in most cases, peppermint and lavender, most cases, are safe to put directly on your skin. In any other case, you want to use a carrier oil, especially if you're working with something painful like oregano or marjoram or something like that. So whether you're inhaling them, which could help, you could also put them on your skin, mix them with an oil, or wherever you have the pain or inflammation, right? Because these herbs aren't just headache, clarity, focus herbs. They reduce inflammation, and inflammation is the one common denominator in all types of pain, right? So you want to think anti-inflammatory. What can I do to, number one, stop causing it, right? And people might not want to hear this, but food sensitivities, I briefly touched upon that, but gluten insensitivity or lactose sensitivity, okay? And as much as people believe in raw milk, and I get that, it is definitely better, and I'm not knocking it, but we're not the same. And not everyone can handle dairy products, no matter how clean it is. Right. And the only way you're actually going to know if that's a contributor is if you cut it out of your diet for like 4 weeks, right? There's something, I forget who coined it, but it's basically called an elimination diet. And you remove just one item from your diet at a time, right? So, and I hesitate to use the term gluten intolerance because it's not gluten, okay? It's the chemicals that they put in it that got processed in your product that's the problem, okay? So, differentiate between that. But, so if you want to try like a little elimination diet, definitely start with milk, okay? Dairy, cheese, yogurt, for 4 weeks, okay? And then see. And if that doesn't make a difference, then eat your damn dairy. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and then do the same with grains and other things that could cause it. And again, I want to mention things that can help people, like citrus, can also hurt people. Caffeine can help headaches in certain people. It can also cause headaches in certain people. So use all of this information with caution. Now,
I eliminated, just really quickly, I eliminated caffeine for a month. And I've done it a few times, and after about, a month and a half, it was horrible. I need the caffeine. It's been one of the best things to help me, and it doesn't help everybody. Matter of fact, it makes a lot of people's headaches worse. Helps mine. And there's an interesting thing here, and I just want to get your view on it as you move forward, and then I'll shut up again. Because one of my favorite delivery systems for any of this is actually olive oil. Big shock, Val at the end of my name, right? But I'm just saying, I learned this from the immigrants that were my grandparents' age. And the old ladies, you know what they did? They needed to do something. They would crush up, say, bay leaves and put it in there.
Right.
And they would just give you a spoonful of it, and that's it. You could either, take the spoonful straight, or you could add it to your food. Didn't matter. Go ahead and use it. Most people can tolerate olive oil. Now, I imagine there's some people that can't for some reason. But what I'm saying is that generally speaking, it's a fairly good one. And again, you got to judge for yourself, and you got to go out and get the right thing, because not all olive oils are equal. Okay, but
absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I just want to make sure when choosing what oil works for you. Like, for example, Chuck doesn't like coconut oil, right? So thankfully, there's so many other options. But please make sure your oil is cold pressed, hopefully first press, unrefined, and the olive oil thing you said, they're not all the same. And even ones with nice labels in grocery stores, they don't have as long a shelf life as other oils. So just be careful. And if you are going to make an oil like that if you need your medicine right away, crush up the fresh leaves and take your spoon of oil immediately.
Right.
But if you're going to be making infused oils like that you don't want to go bad, say in a week or two or whatever, then you're going to want to dry the herb thoroughly, put it in the oil, and shake in the dark room away from heat and light, and shake that every day for at least 6 weeks. Right. And then you'll always have your medicine on hand. By the way, you can do that with clove, you can do that with any herb, and then you not only have it to use for your cooking or your skin or your headache remedies, you can, I guess that's it, skin.
It pretty much covers
pain, it. They're antifungals and antivirals, right? So you can even use that same basil or rosemary or thyme oil and put it on an infection or a wound or a bug bite. And just to top it off with these headache herbs, most of them are bug repellents, right? So, all right. So working with the essential oils now, you can add them either to oil, as we discussed that way, or if you wanted to use them, so like put 1 drop of peppermint oil in your tea. What you need to know is essential oils, even though they're called oil, they're not an actual oil, but they're also not water soluble. So if you put that peppermint oil, like say in the top of your coffee or your drink, it's literally going to float on the top. And, you know, you could get a nice whiff of it and it might not be delicious. So let's say you want to add like an oregano oil or a peppermint oil to a tea or a bath, same method. You're going to want to have, first get a spoon and put either a little bit of honey, a little bit of sugar, or a little bit of salt. And then drop the oil on top of that in the spoon, right? And then stir it into your glass, okay? Because the essential oils will be absorbed by either the sugar, salt, honey, or whatever medium you're using. By the way, these same herbs, if you do have them, you can also make vinegar infusions, which will be medicine. And there are some people who believe that vinegar, and more specifically garlic, crushed garlic in vinegar, is also a traditional headache remedy, right? So,
well, vinegar is also helpful topically when you have damage to the skin.
Right.
In a lot of cases, depends on the situation again.
Right.
But you got to know that a lot of these things, and even olive oil, can help in healing. A lot of people don't know that. But I know I keep saying olive oil. It's because it's one of the things that I've learned is universally helpful to me. So I use it in a lot of different ways, and there you go. But even the vinegar, there's ways of doing it so that you can neutralize certain problems that are going on and everything else. So keep that in mind as well. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'm going to mention some other maybe lesser known herbs. Things like even mullein or wormwood or mugwort could perhaps help reduce headaches or pain. And but you know, again, use caution. Any herb I put out there, use caution. Don't just jump in and try this without consulting with your medical professional or doing your own due diligence.
Right.
But even horseradish, you know. But when it comes to the mullein, and there's different ways to take that, whether you're making an oil or a tincture or a tea. But if you turn any of those into a tea, you definitely want to use a sweetener or mix it with something like peppermint or some other flavorful herbs, right? And then chamomile, okay? Like chamomile is accessible almost anywhere. So whether you're using the oil or as a tea or simply eating the flowers when, you know, when the season's going on.
Right.
And there's a couple that are super common I want to talk about because you may be able to go right outside your yard and find these. So I'm sure we have all heard of salicylic acid, right? Salicin, which is put in aspirin. And I do want to say that you mentioned earlier, you know, not everything pharma does is great. Yes, a lot of drugs they make can help reduce symptoms, but what other symptoms are they causing, right? And so in the case of, say, like Tylenol or aspirin, you know, it's kind of been proven to cause maybe stomach disorders, liver disorders. You know, too much aspirin, like thin blood, and
aspirin does all kinds of weird things to your stomach. I learned that the hard way. Aspirin does things to your stomach for sure. Right. Tylenol is bad for the liver.
Right.
I think actually,
and not only that, it has been proven to erase people's ability for empathy. And go look up those studies. Okay, we don't have time to get into it because we have barely like 12 minutes left or something.
No, we have more than that because we started late, number one. No, number two, the thing about Tylenol, you wonder why they keep adding it to the opiates, right? Anyways,
Right.
there's a question in the chat room, though. And I think it's a good one because I know that a lot of men, and I'm just going to give my answer to it and then let you have it. But the thing is, a lot of men, specifically that I've known, especially during this other C word time we got encouraged to use more D3. And in fact, I'm one of them. And I've had discussions with other guys, and we discovered, hey, look, this was very helpful. But see, again, no one size fits all situation. There are some guys I know that take a lot of it and use it to help with their blood pressure. And this person asking the question, if you look in the chat room, Christie, you'll see it. Is one of those guys. But I've also known some others who went, wow, this actually picked me up. I was feeling really sickly, and this assisted me overall, and I've just continued to use it. I discovered myself that high doses were good at first, and then I had to pull it back, and it was too much.
Okay.
Okay. But everybody differs here a little bit, and some guys have reported to me they stopped doing it, and then they felt like crap, and they went back. So what is your opinion about D3, and how much is too much?
It's super interesting that you said it was helping you and then you had to cut back.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to caution anyone. Okay, and I think we kind of touched on this. Yeah. So these look, when we're suffering nutrient deficiencies, do what you need to do to get them back in you, right? That being said, not all herbs, pills or vitamin supplements we take can even be absorbed by our system, right? And speaking of our system, our gut biome, there is a gut-brain connection. So you know what I mean? And Dr. Blaylock, I guess, proved that best case scenario, most supplements were pissing out 90% of it. So I am always going to suggest to first get it from nature. However you need to do that, right? Whether it's dandelions or mushrooms or, you know what I'm saying? Because too much supplementation is not a good thing. Too many herbs is not a good thing. Too much water is not a good thing. All right. So there are, I'm just going to say, buried studies about the long-term effects of high doses of vitamin D, and they are not good. Okay. And I can't remember the doctor's name right now that brought it into the public eye about a decade ago. And after the show, when I have time to look it up, I'll find a video to send it to you. And him and others explain it very well. So again, that's why I find it interesting that you said it was working, but then you had to dial it back. So I actually want to ask you, what was it that made you dial it back?
It was starting to cause problems with my gut, is what it was. It was too much. And I'm not sure if it was the type of supplement or not, but then I read an Italian study, which was conducted like 20 years ago, because I can read in Italian. I read the Italian study that was done at their universities, and they said that there was only a certain level of this necessary, and that going with a high dose, like it actually fit the pattern of what I had already done. What they were suggesting was the best way to go. And I'm not saying that I take their suggestions entirely. I'm just saying that I observe and look at the data they collected based on it. And they found that people that had deficiencies, if they were to use the supplements, it did work. It was better if it was introduced, by the way, by eating foods as opposed to the supplements. They had a separate group. I'm just saying, and they did that, in like 2000. So, it was like, oh, well, of course I knew that part, but it was starting to make me kind of feel not nauseous, but there was a weird sickly kind of feeling to it,
right?
Which let me know that my gut was not working. I pay a lot of attention to my gut,
right?
So it's like, oh, there is something wrong here, and then by process of elimination, you go, okay, what is it? And like I said, at first I felt great. Taking the high levels of D3, I was going through bottles of this stuff. I was just taking I wasn't even counting them anymore. I was just taking handfuls. And,
wow.
But it was working great. It was picking me back up.
Right.
But then I started feeling sickly, and it was the only explanation I had, because I would go through a week and I'd say I felt like crap all week. my gut's bad, and the only thing that's consistent is that D3. So it was too much. And then again, I've talked to somebody else who is doing the same thing and has been doing it now for a year. And they swear by it. It's like, it's perfect for them. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're probably only getting a small percentage of it out of your supplement, so it's probably balancing out and working for you. But we're both people that don't really go out and get a lot of sun. So this is also a common problem. But let's see, time remaining is really more like about 15 or 20 minutes, by the way, depending on how you want to roll. So, but since you asked, I figured I'd answer. And there's another question in the chat. I don't know if you can see it.
No, I needed to hear that. And I just want to say what you did right there is listen to yourself, listen to your body. You didn't need a doctor to tell you, oh, too much of this is going to hurt, right? Like, you realize that, you listen to yourself, your body, and then you stopped it, right? Whereas a lot of us, we're conditioned to wait for someone else to tell us what to do. So it is a fact that too much vitamin D can definitely mess with the biome. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why people caution against nightshades like tomato, potato, eggplant, tomatillos, ground cherries, things like that. And again, it comes to knowing yourself, because ultimately you're the one that lives with you. You know how you feel. You know what makes you feel good. Like reading in a book that 10 bananas are going to cure your headaches. I mean, that's great. That's one thing. But you're not going to know until you actually do it. And then do it every day for a couple weeks. And you know what I'm saying? So a lot of us were in this quick fix mode. And what you have to realize, you didn't get sick in a day. Okay? So we have to be patient. Like, people will try something once or maybe 3 times and then forget it. And, so if you really want to heal yourself, which I know for a fact everyone has the power to do, you have to stick with the changes and be diligent. And like what Chuck did in the vitamin D example, you have to listen to your body and your intuition. Now, that is not I want to bring up also, when starting new herbs or health regimens, it could, regimens, it could trigger what's known as a detox or healing crisis. And sometimes that will cause headaches because you're now pulling all of that gunk that's been hiding, whether it's in your bowels or your arteries or wherever it is, right? The heavy metals, and they're now flowing through. And so that can cause headaches. And that also causes people to stop regimens within the first week or less, because they're like, oh, I have a stomach ache, or I have a headache.
Yeah,
well, you're
bluntly,
supposed to have that because you need to get rid of it.
Right. Now, bluntly, just to say something bluntly here, a lot of people experience diarrhea or loose stool when they first do this, and that's a sickly kind of feeling, and they get driven off because it's like, this doesn't feel right. And no, it doesn't. But it is part of the process that your body's going through. And by the way, you got to be careful about that too, because dehydration is an obvious issue if you're having that happen. But it could be your body needs to do that for a little while to clear some things out, because you've now introduced this new thing in there. It feels a little counterintuitive though, because obviously it's like, I'm eating this, it's giving me this, must be it's not good. You got to give it a little bit of time. When you're doing this too. I mean, not something that's drastic. I mean, if your heart's pounding, I mean, stop. But what I'm saying is that maybe some diarrhea, or a little bit of like, I feel a little odd, or I feel a little bloated, maybe even temporarily. These kind of things might happen because your body is reacting and doing its job and clearing things out. So that's something that needs to be kept in mind too. I'm sorry to go ahead. And they're
just temporary. So again, you have to try something for at least, a couple weeks in a row and work through that, right? And if you're having diarrhea, eat more bananas or whatever. And again, that's a magnesium so it's going to help with the headaches and, all of that stuff as well. So yeah, I hope that we've put enough caution out there to just, again, do not try this at home. If this is your first time, check with your health professional. And if you are starting with herbs, start with one at a time, give it time, see how you react. If you have a headache and diarrhea or constipation or foul odor like sweat or breath, etc., know that that's a normal process of detox. And that's why I always recommend to my clients is when you're starting something like Simodifolan or something like, don't do it on a work day. Don't start Monday morning and go to work, you know what I mean? Like, if you do have a normal job, then you're going to want to start that shit Friday night, right? So, because if you have to, then you can stay in bed Saturday and Sunday. Or if you have to be close to a bathroom, right? You're not in an office or, say, a bus driver or, you know, something like that. So just know what you're getting into. And crap, I'm looking at the clock. So I'm just going to throw out some other herbs and oils. I mentioned mugwort,
before you do that, and I want to let you do it as long as you want, and you can run as long as you want, but I think step one, which we should have probably put at the beginning of the show, but it sounds like something that, of course, you would think of this, but step one is first know what it is you're already putting into your body, because I got to tell you, that a lot of people do not take the time to examine some of the things they're putting into their body in the first place. They don't necessarily know the contents of a lot of the foods that they're eating. I'm not saying that this is because they're stupid or anything. It's just that this is the way that, you know, life has become during this time period. You may not entirely know everything that you're putting in your body. So I think the very first thing to do, but you know something's wrong. Okay, that's first step. But second step...
that's what I meant by finding the root.
Yeah.
And when it comes to foods, again, remember that some things that might be good for the bulk of people or someone else might not be good for you. You could have a hidden allergy. You know what I'm saying? So So find the root, whatever it is for you, and that's where the elimination diet comes in. You know, and of course, essentially, is it a one-time headache, or is this something that happens every day for the last 10 years? Right? So there are so many factors, and if anybody needs any, you know, specific help, then feel free to contact me, but we're just going to go through, or I'll try to go through as much as I can. So I mentioned those super common herbs, even like catnip. I didn't mention that. But that's also something that could help. Ashwagandha and usnea, both of those helped me. And you remember my Florida 8-month-long headache with no sleep and such. And also, speaking of sleep could be a factor in headaches. Are you getting enough, or are you even getting too much, right? And let's see, feverfew is another good one. So it's not only good to reduce, you know, people know it more as reducing fever and colds and things like that, but it's also a known headache remedy. And then at least 2 more that I can think of right now that you might be able to find right outside. Well, feverfew could be one, but butterbur, and that likes wet places. And the leaves they can get very big, like a foot, but when the plant's really small, the leaves are kind of heart-shaped-ish, kind of a cross between a violet and a geranium leaf. And it can have, so it's like a cone flower kind of thing with lots of multiple little flowers, like a firework. And they're tiny, either white or whitish and pink, or yellowish whitish, and that's pretty commonly found everywhere. And then willow. We hear of white willow bark, which is known to have salicylic acid. That's right. I started to talk about this earlier, which is the known component in aspirin. And I just want to say, anything man can do, God/nature can do better. So when man is taking a component out of something, it's not the way nature intended. And that's why we have problems like stomach issues in taking aspirins and things like that. So you can get that same salicin or salicylic acid from white willow bark. And don't stop here, because if you don't know what the hundreds of species of willow are, you can literally use any willow, a weeping willow, whatever. And all you have to do is just, those beautiful long viney branches, just cut off, I don't know, depending on how big the branch is, but say it's like the width of one of your fingers or thumb, depending on your size. Then cut that, like, say, an arm's length long, and then you'll want to, just kind of shred it in half or cut it in half kind of thing, pull it apart, and then you'll get all that middle bark. It's kind of like a whitish, yellowish, sawdusty looking, material. I can't come up, mulchy looking material. And from there, you can just make a tea right away, or dry it out for future use, or use the fresh herb and tincture it so you have all the headache medicine you need for a really long time. And yeah, you could also, same thing with butterbur or whatever, same process, or any of those other herbs. Now, I know we're out of time, so I do just want to at least spend 5 minutes on, say, emotional, spiritual, and biological or environmental causes, right? Sure. So biological cause, like in your instance, the genetic disorder that causes the eye strain and such. However, I do want to say this. Not all disabilities are disabilities. And I did a video a long time ago, disability versus diffability. So a lot of these things that we have traditionally labeled as, say, detriments or disabilities, they're actually a superpower, right? And so for your case, obviously, if you're having an eye strain headache, stop straining your eyes. Take that break. So, and for other people, this is emotional, spiritual causes of headaches could be, and just ask yourself, whoever's listening, in your own time, when the headache comes about, and obviously this would be not a 10-year in a row long headache, right? But if something comes up, like, how are you feeling about yourself and your true power? Are you feeling not good enough? Are you feeling like, and in a lot of times, believe it or not, headaches can be caused by still trying to acquire the love of your mother, okay? So is there any hidden trauma that we haven't addressed? The need or perceived need to have to prove yourself, or inner conflict of maybe you're thinking too much and you need to get out of your head and into your heart, or maybe you're in a situation where you're afraid to use your words, so the headaches are an excuse to not deal with it, right?
See, back pain can come up the same way. I hate psychiatrists,
absolutely, and autoimmune. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but back pain is one of those things where I suffer from that chronically. But when things are more emotionally difficult, or I'm carrying something around, so to speak, literally it does affect. It increases my back pain, and that's one of those hokey things that psychiatrists told me years ago. And, of course, most of them are out of their minds, but they got a couple things right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because, all right, that's enough, because I don't want to get too much into that. I do just want to say, I'm looking at the chat, and I see pine needle tea, yes, that's awesome, against headaches, inflammation, colds, rheumatism, okay? And then I'm seeing, do you detox with zeolite? I do not, and I'm not a fan. And Chuck, you said there were other questions in the chat. I don't see them, so if you have them. Yeah,
there was one about, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's a kratom or creatum, I guess, which I've heard it pronounced all different ways, but it's one of those things that a lot of people, it's controversial, too much of it will hurt you, but, it's a good supplement. You know what they're talking about there?
Right. I know people it's helped, and I know people it's hurt. again, as always, use caution and always make sure that you are getting good sources. I would never recommend getting any herbs or herbal supplements or essential oils or anything like that from that place that everyone shops at that starts with an A. And it is known that a lot of things are replicated or, so just don't do that, okay? Consider the source in all things. And ultimately, when it comes to source, you are the source. You are, and because of that, we are able to heal ourselves, okay? Whether we believe we can or not. And so I'm just going to say this. Now, affirmative prayer, I would be remiss to not mention that, okay? Right. So again, talk to yourself. When the pain comes on, don't try to fight it, right? You become what you fight, and focus. Everything you focus on is going to expand, right? So when the pain comes up, your body is literally a roadmap to your feelings, your spiritual and emotional state. Okay, so each organ or each pain means something else. So if you start to treat your body half as well as you treat your car and get the right fluids and the right nutrients in there, and when the check engine, the pain light comes on, say, dude, thanks for being there. What am I doing that's causing it? Okay, and what am I missing? And again, it's not always physical, and especially for empaths, not all pain is your pain. Okay, right. So that's where we have to become mindful. And when we want to like cry in misery over this or that, been there, done that, dude. Okay, so when we want to do that, let's try to be mindful and give thanks for our healing. And so let's say your head hurts. Well, guess what? Your feet are still working, right? Your digestive system is still working. Your vision is working. Your sinuses are working. You can still hear, right? You probably have running water. So focus on what you can be thankful for. And I swear to you, this is no hokey pokey kumbaya, stuff. This will help. And give thanks for your healing already. And even if the negative thoughts come up, replace them with something like, my head feels fantastic. And I just love its ability to overcome anything and work effortlessly and whatever mumbo jumbo you make up in your own head, right? And if you want to go a step further, repeat it out loud or sing it, because believe it or not, and I have personal experience with this, in fact, everything I talk about, I have personal experience with, or I'm not going to talk about it. So that is one thing that we all can do. When you go to bed, ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I not paying attention to? Do I have an unhealed or repressed trauma, etc.? And also I want to mention, since we did talk about essential oils, yes. Essential oils, when your aroma, your sense of scent is directly connected to your limbic system. That's where all your emotional memories are stored. Okay, so that's one of the major reasons how you can get instant relief, right? And again, if you're in a situation that's causing it, remove yourself from that situation, right? And if it's, whether it's a perfume, right? People get chemical-induced headaches, or walking down the laundry aisle in the store. Don't do it. Cover your nose or replace, you know what I'm saying? There's that. So since we're out of time, I'm just going to go through again like a bunch of different herbs that people can research on their own that might already be in their kitchen cabinet or in their yard.
Now, one second, just before you do that, because I just want to throw one thing in here, because you're going to laugh, I think. You know me well. So here's the thing. I would also suggest, when you're talking about gratitude and, embracing the good that is, even if there is some negativity, here's the other thing. You have a choice about getting upset about things. Okay, you're grateful for this and that, but you're upset about this and this and this. I make a value judgment about that, and I do this. You've heard me do it out loud in private interactions. where I've said, you know what good is this going to do me to allow myself to get worked up, to invest energy in this by getting upset, by being disturbed by this? Does this serve a good or a purpose? I'm not saying that getting upset doesn't sometimes serve a purpose, but it is always helpful to evaluate that and say to yourself, at least this is, my experience. Again, does this serve a purpose? Does it do me any good to get upset about this?
Right.
And a lot of times, if you can reason it, okay, I'm not saying you can always reason your emotions, because they're emotions. They're not always reasonable. But sometimes you can turn the volume down. Sometimes you can bring yourself to breathing a little easier, because you're not just allowing it to run you. You do have the option to control some of that. Maybe not all of it. And some of us have, different degrees of success with it.
Or we can get better at it.
But we can always improve at it. And I think it's a value judgment that if you can take just a breath and say, look, is this going to do me any good? Being upset about this? Is this going to cause me to think about this and maybe fix it? Or is this just me being upset until I run out of energy on it? And if that's all it is, move on. Put that energy somewhere else. I'm just saying, that's one of those things to do too. So you're going to give us a list of herbs, and then I'll play the music and let you out. Of course, we went a little over the hour, and I took a little extra of your time, but we started a little late. Really appreciate it, Christie Aphrodite. And during the break, you're going to hear a little My True Essence commercial. Okay. And I have been reinserting those lately. They were meant for you to play on your show on the network, and I wanted them in the rotation, but they have been back in the rotation recently. So, there they are. You can go there and get a hold of a lot of different things, but Christie's going to tell you about some of the stuff you can do for yourself if you can find it, and the likelihood that you can find it just about right under your feet if you walk outside your door is pretty high. So go ahead, Christie.
Right. And I also just want to say, most everything we've talked about tonight, I have in stock at My True Essence. And I can make special order items with things that maybe are not on the website. There are certain things. If you just want a headache remedy, like right now, pain be gone, dude. Doesn't matter if you get the Dream Cream or the roller bottle. Flow Free also helps with that. And again, like all those herbs or infused oils, tinctures and vinegars and things we talked about, I do have. It's not a sales pitch, because
having used the cream,
honestly rather teach everyone how to do this for themselves. So
yes, but having used
that.
The cream, I'm just going to say I prefer the cream to the roller bottle. Other people like the roller bottle. I prefer the cream. I've used them both. And
yeah, the cream, I'll just say, is definitely also okay. So the roller bottle is great to have in your pocket for easy things and quick things, or to roll on a spot or whatever. But the cream, it not only pain, gum disease, I mean, dissolves clots. I'm probably not allowed to say any of this. I'll just say, read the links that go directly to PubMed, which will tell you, and then read the testimonials and let them speak. But whatever. So that being said, I want to teach you all how to do all this as well. So I kind of refer to easy medicine, which I consider a pamper yourself while healing approach, and then hard medicine. So just to rehash, some of the easy medicine things would be change your location, right? Massage your head, your temples, pressure points, etc., posture, breathing. In fact, breathing.com, I had him on the show like a million years ago. He was really good, and you can go to the site and find hundreds of different techniques and things that they can literally solve and stop right now, okay? And different, even yoga positions. And again, affirmative prayer, the easy stuff, and taking a bath. right? So you can do that with Epsom salt and essential oils or however much you want to pamper yourself. And then, of course, smelly good stuff like aromatherapy. And so what kind of aromas can and you know what I say will help with headaches, because there is tons of government and science-based research proving it and the studies. So that would be like peppermint, oregano, clove, cedar, sandalwood, rose, melissa, aka lemon balm, all different types of mint, from pineapple, chocolate, apple, traditional, including even spearmint. Did I say nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, basil, rosemary, thyme, sage, anise, even vanilla. Okay, so you can use all of those as a spice, as an oil, as a tincture, turn into your own cream, or eat them. And then the other herbs that are not really eaten as much as that would be, let's see, wormwood, feverfew, butterbur, chamomile, bee pollen, cayenne, turmeric, ginger, garlic, lemon juice, lime juice, and even the essential oils, right? And again, they're all, each of these, whether you use them as the herb or essential oil, they're not just going to eliminate headaches. They are also antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. In some case, help cleanse and stimulate the pineal gland. In the case of, say, frankincense and sandalwood, all right, and cedarwood. Okay, and cedarwood also helps produce natural melatonin, so you can also get a better night's sleep. And environmental factors, I guess this would also be considered easy medicine, would be Wi-Fi. Turn it off at night. Turn your phone on the airplane setting, okay? And you will be shocked at what a better night's sleep you get. And yeah, so nature, of course, grounding, of course, fresh air, of course.
Sleep outside once in a while.
And then more hard medicine stuff would be like the tinctures,
Yep.
or even cannabis paste, which we didn't really get into tonight, but I do have videos on my site that can, or not my site, sorry, on YouTube, that a tutorial in off-grid, and then a tutorial with power and a crock pot and an oven. And
Right.
so if you have, like, say, chronic headaches and all of these other things didn't help, and maybe and by the way, I forgot to mention, these herbs also prevent cytokine storms, okay? So there's a lot more benefits by incorporating these herbs into your diet, right? Let your food be your medicine, and the more you switch from unnatural, allergen-causing, inflammation-causing diet to nature and get rid of the middleman, everything's going to feel better, not just the pain and not just the headaches. I hope that I covered enough. Oh, sorry. One thing I did want to say about willow, it's not the salicylic acid. You also hear that in like face washes and things like that, right? So if you do go clip a little willow or something, you can not only use it for headaches, you can also use it as like a skin wash or a hair wash or something like that. And also, if you're in the wild, I forgot to mention, not just willow, but aspen. And aspen, they have those beautiful, well, at least in fall, big round yellow leaves, but they also have eyeballs on their trunks, you know? So, but again, don't take my advice, research all of this, check with your health professional, and I hope that that was thorough. If you have any more questions, I will totally answer.
Well, look, I'm sure that they could keep asking you questions all night, but let's just mention one other thing. You mentioned turmeric. That's a great anti-inflammatory, but you got to get the stuff that's not the dead crap in the store, just like Christie said. Also, getting away from the phone, I don't carry one. So, there's that. But getting away from the electricity is nice, too. To be honest with you, if you could just go somewhere where there isn't electricity. I know that's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people, but that actually helps.
Thank you for saying that, because that's something else I wanted to mention. Sidney Ross Singer coined the phrase, a few, but vibroacoustic disease. And, he's a Harvard graduate and like all this, doctor stuff. And he's pretty well read. But he discovered that vibroacoustic disease is caused, and again, can cause headaches, inflammation, hormone disruptions and such, by things that we don't even think of. So like driving in a car, your refrigerator, TV, like any electronics plugged in, because they're putting out all these low, what do they call, ultra low, the vibration. So we can't hear it, but our cells do. But yeah, you know what? If you're not active and for some reason you can't get out to nature or whatever, just go outside, take your shoes off, jump on a trampoline, get active, because in a lot of cases, exercise can help, right?
Right. And the frequency of most things that are electrical in nature, the frequency is generally just enough off that it is kind of harmful. And I've gone over that with electromagnetic frequencies on this show with other people that were actually, engineers and things, to explain what that is. And I don't necessarily fully understand it. I understand frequency because I understand music, but and I understand acoustics, but not necessarily, how all things work that are electrical and magnetic, etc. But I have a basic idea. And that's one of those other great things to avoid. So we've actually taken you way over your time.
It's okay. And I'm sorry I get so excited everything you bring up, because I'm like, oh man, how could we not talk about that? Music, right?
Right.
So this would be easy medicine thing, right? So whether that's a dark room or listening to music that makes you happy. And speaking of music, there's a lot of music that like I have loved and even sang or rapped or whatever for years, and think of the lyrics we're repeating. You know what I'm saying? So one thing I do is like, of course, if you're depressed and your lover just left, you want to cry to all these love songs. Oh, I'm nothing without you, or like all these things, right? But again, you're contributing to your pain. What are you focusing on? So either switch the lyrics and sing louder than you're hearing it, or turn it off and go make up your own lyrics, right? Again, so whether it's a prayer or listening to music that you love and makes you feel good, or classical, or some kind of nice drum beat, or a singing bowl thing, or things like that can help. So I'm glad you brought up vibration. Be mindful of where you are spending your energy. Right? If your headache comes on after watching an hour of CNN, well, turn it off, right? But if it comes on after you go through the McDonald's drive-through, don't do that.
Well, the other thing, too, is that, when people talk about vibration, they're generally talking about, people around them and things like that when they get into this. And as much as I hate some of the people that discuss this because they have no clue what they're actually saying, there is a reality to who you surround yourself with. We are energetic beings. We do actually have, electrical frequencies, basically, that are part of our system, too. And if you surround yourself with individuals who are projecting and participating in things that are not, conducive to your frequency, you will find that it will begin to drag you in their direction. And that's an influential thing. Beyond psychology, there is an influential kind of atmosphere that gets built around certain people. And you know about it when you see it, but you don't know how to articulate it. It's a reality as well. So you got to consider all of the external input going into the system, whether it is psychological, spiritual, or physical.
Right.
And, of course, we didn't cover it all. But because my second hour guest didn't show up, we were able to go over a bit.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay, well, I'm not
yeah,
in a hurry, man. I just want to be thorough, and I feel like I tried to get through everything so fast that I probably left some things out, you know?
well, but that's the beauty of us being able to do this next week. We
Right.
can continue it, and I've actually got
Well,
a little.
different topic, right?
Yeah,
Like
of
pick a new
course.
topic and we'll what I don't know. Let me know.
Well, if
And
anybody has a suggestion, I do have Christie's Twitter handle because I know you're willing to go on Twitter. If people want to reach out there, or if you
yeah, I
want
do
to,
do Twitter. It's the only social media I have on my phone, and it's fun because,
you don't
it's
get
just
stuck in it.
short,
Yeah, you don't get stuck in it
quick.
very long, thankfully.
Right.
But I'm sure also they can still contact you at ChristieAphrodite.com. Directly. You still have the email link up there and everything, right?
Right. And thanks for reminding me. That's a separate email that I haven't checked in months.
Oh,
So
well.
I'll do
Oops.
but ChristieAphrodite at gmail.com. And yeah, I'm Christie Aphrodite everywhere. I don't use Instagram anymore, but my pages still exist there if you
Right.
wanted to see like the whole thing up until I quit that. And then, yeah, fake book and stuff like that. Which now that I'm doing the show with you, instead of checking in once a month, I'll check in once a week. I'll
There
make
you go.
Tuesday my day. And I always do my best to answer every single question I can. And if I've already discussed it repeatedly in videos, I'll find you a video link. But pretty much you
Right.
can just go to the site or my YouTube. And although some are buried that even I can't find using my name and title, like the arthritis one,
Right.
by the way, Blue Lotus and all of these other ones we've already talked about today, but then add menthol. And you know what? That reminds me, there are other herbs and oils I did not bring up, and those would consist of the flowers, like rose, lavender, crap, what other flowers? Hops. Okay, but be careful if you're a male. Too much hops causes an excess of estrogen, and then, getting back to those hormonal imbalances or fluctuations we talked about earlier, right?
Well, there's a wide variety of things that can become estrogen mimickers that are not even necessarily about the contents of the food, but might have to do with the packaging of food when you're purchasing it.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of things to watch out for where, quite frankly, I feel as though there was a purposeful agenda there in over feminizing the population. But anyway, that's a story for another day, maybe.
And a couple other flowers that left in my brain for a minute are bergamot, and geranium, and clary sage. So, if you have a yard, plant some of those things. And if you need help utilizing them, I haven't, videos that talk about it, or, I'll help. There's, posted everywhere. So, oops, I mean poop.
It's all right. And look,
Because I'm a big girl now.
that's all right. I got it. And everybody poops anyway. Okay, so thing is this. We're going to continue to do this at 9 p.m. Eastern live on Ochelli.com. And if you go into the chat room there, or if you go into the chat room at guess where? ChristieAphrodite.com.
Yeah, if your
They-
site's getting hacked and all that fun stuff.
Oh, I'm still working on it. Yeah, but yeah.
That's right. So yeah, if that is a good backup to know. So yeah, the same listen and chat page that you find on Ochelli.com is also there.
Right. So
And you have a million, like Spotify, iHeart,
Oh, we go to
TuneIn,
all
like
that,
it goes
yeah.
all these other places people can listen to.
yeah, unless they strike us down for some reason. Yeah, we appear everywhere. Just saying.
I'm
but-
gonna try to be nice and just keep giving out those disclaimers.
No, but we'll do that because what we've done is provoke thought and get people to think about things that are really just better for them than what most people would suggest, which is, hey, that's half the battle, okay? So we're going to keep doing this live at 9 p.m. Eastern normally on Ochelli.com and all of the affiliates and whatever. And Christie Aphrodite will do this with us for a little while, and we'll get into a bunch of other topics. And you can tell us what to discuss by entering your thoughts. Contact Christie, leave it in the chat room, whatever. We'll roll it back, we'll get it, or listen live and ask your questions right then and there. So fair enough, Christie?
Yeah, or if somebody listens later and sends you, hey, I want you to do a topic on this, or yeah, send them to me or you or whatever. And yeah, so what do you think the topic will be next week? Do we have any votes in the chat room?
Well, we'll let them sound off. Think about it, and a lot of people will catch this via the podcast. So by all means, if you missed it live, you're still eligible. Just get it to us by Tuesday, and we'll try and cover it on that Tuesday. That's simple.
Right.
Anyway,
thank you so much, and thanks for allowing me to go a little bit later.
Not a problem. I can't thank you enough for coming back around, Christie, because always got a spot here, one way or another, whether we do it this way or you do your own show or whatever it is you want. You got a place to go anyway. I'll tell you that
I
much.
always have time for you, and this is a perfect setting. So I can manage all the other stuff I have going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
again,
if you want a chick talking healthy, weird stuff, then I'm definitely that chick who's willing.
sounds perfect to me. And maybe you mentioned feet a couple of times. Maybe we'll actually do a topic about that, because one of those weird, underrated kind of things that you can, literally, how you're handling your feet can cause all sorts of health issues. You can change things by changing your shoes and things like this. So that might be a good topic for next week, unless
Or just
something else.
taking them off. And since you brought that up, I just have to share this, fun fact, or little known fact, really. But most cancers actually start in the feet.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
So I'll let you guys research that and see what you come up with, and yeah, we can discuss that further. Even I mentioned Sidney Ross Singer, another term that he coined and did a ton of research on for decades is called culturogenic disease. And that's where we do things like wear improper shoes, tight-fitting socks, tight clothes, tight bras, tight belts, tight hats, tight ties, things that we think are normal, corsets, high heels, things that are normal, that have been normalized in our society, right, that's actually causing disease.
Right.
So he's an excellent resource. He used to be a regular on my show, and I just can't say enough good about him.
Right.
And he's got a bunch of books and stuff. I'm Sidney Ross Singer, if you want to look him up. But he was attacked by mainstream for a while, and did a 15-year bra study, and yeah. So
right. Well, look, there's a lot to it, but like I said, we could just go to a body part and just go at it. I mean, we did headache. We could talk about head to toe. We could just go to the toes now, but there you go.
I don't know if I know this much about every body part, though.
well, I guess we'll have to find out as the weeks go by, won't we?
We will. We'll just have fun no matter what.
Exactly. Christie Aphrodite, again, she'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern live on next Tuesday. And she's always around mytrueessence.net, ChristieAphrodite.com. Those are the websites, and they'll be in the show notes. Thanks for listening, everybody.